One of the most famous cities of Asia and the world is undoubtedly Hong Kong. It's one of the busiest, most crowded places on earth. And it also has a special status within China owed to its colonial history. If you're curious to find out more, you're in luck, cause today 7.3 million people living in just 2,700 square kilometers. That's Hong Kong in a nutshell. A crowded global city where on average 6,800 people live per every square kilometer. And the stats keep getting more impressive. Hong Kong is the third largest financial center on earth and it's also one of the most developed cities of our age. Its transportation system alone would make any other city envious. Over 90% of all daily trips are made on public transport, and its railway system is used by 5 million people a day and has an on-time rate of 99.9%. Hong Kong also has the largest number of skyscrapers of any city and the third highest number of billionaires. Its residents have the second highest life expectancy among all humans. On average, Hong Kongers live 85.5 years. Despite this, Hong Kong also has some of the most severe income inequalities on the planet. So there are a lot of good things to say about Hong Kong, but the city also has its problems. And in order to understand how it got to where it is today, we need to look at its history. Today, Hong Kong is a special administrative region of China, so not a regular province. This is because Hong Kong until not too long ago was a British colony. But before the British, China was of course in charge of this place. They arrived to Hong Kong in 214 BC when the Qin dynasty incorporated it into a unified China. From that moment on, most of the time Hong Kong belonged to one of the Chinese dynasties. All the way up to 1513, no known European visitor had ever reached this small piece of China. That year though, Jorge Alvarez, a Portuguese explorer, arrived to Hong Kong and that opened up some trade opportunities for Europe. The Portuguese set up a trading post here they called Tamao, but in the 1520s they were expelled. Little did the Chinese know that this European meddling was a sign of things to come. By the 19th century, European traders were at a great disadvantage with China. They were buying tea, silk and porcelain, but they could only buy them with silver. China had no interest in European goods. So the British started selling opium in exchange for, you guessed it, silver. This caused social upheavals of course, and in 1839 the First Opium War began. The war ended with Britain's victory and Hong Kong Island was ceded to them. Then in 1856 the Second Opium War broke out and the British won again and the Kowloon Peninsula joined the British colony. In 1898 Britain again obtained even more land, this time on a 99-year lease. Hong Kong rapidly developed into a major trading post and urban center and a new separate identity emerged. The city became a mix of East Asian and European cultures and mentalities, and vast differences emerged between it and mainland, now communist China. In 1997, when the lease expired, the United Kingdom handed over the entire colony of Hong Kong. The switch wasn't smooth, and to this day there are clashes between Hong Kongers and Beijing authorities. Nevertheless, so far, the city kept its special status and continues to be administered under a different system than the rest of China. Not too long ago, there was a place in Hong Kong where you wouldn't want to end up alone. I'm talking about Kowloon Walled City, a densely packed, ungoverned so-called city. Officially, this place belonged to China, not Britain. In practice, both wanted it and nobody wanted it. But the people actually living there went nowhere. In fact, the population started to grow fast. During the 60s, developers built new structures above the older ones, and in a blink of an eye, 33,000 people were occupying 300 buildings in little over 7 hectares. That number grew to 50,000 by the 1990s. With no government enforcement from either the Chinese nor the British, Kowloon Walled City became a haven for crime and drugs. The city was filled with brothels, illegal gaming parlors, and opium dens. It became such a dangerous place that not even the police dared enter unless they were in large numbers. That being said, most residents were not involved in any crimes and lived peacefully. Even small factories and businesses developed and thrived. Still, living conditions were just horrid. In 1987, both China and Britain agreed that something had to be done, so they decided to demolish the city, building a park instead. By 1994, the entire city was gone, and with it, one of Hong Kong's most interesting and at the same time infamous pieces of history. So how is Hong Kong doing today? Well, if we look at the numbers, this place is quite impressive. Despite being just a city, it ranks as the 43rd largest economy in the world. Its port is among the busiest in the world, shipping goods from and to mainland China in addition to its own products. They even have their own currency, the Hong Kong dollar. While changes have been made in the region's political system, Hong Kong is still regarded as among the most favorable places to start a company. And it shows. Between 1961 and 1997, Hong Kong's GDP grew 180 times, and the trend is continuing to this day. There is virtually no public debt, and thanks to its low taxation policy, there's never a shortage of thriving companies. With that being said, there are plenty of people who are not doing so well. Over 1 million people in Hong Kong are living below the poverty line, and the big reason for that is the availability of affordable housing. But more on that in a few minutes. Okay, Hong Kong is a special administrative region within China, we get that. But what does that actually mean? Well, the executive, legislative and judicial powers of Hong Kong are devolved from the national government, meaning the area has the power to govern itself. When Britain ceded the territory back to China, it did so under the condition that an economic and administrative continuity will be assured. This status quo has come to be known as the One Country, Two Systems principle, and Hong Kong's basic law, its constitution, is based on that. Chinese national law does not generally apply in Hong Kong. Furthermore, Hong Kong has the right to maintain economic and cultural relations with foreign nations separate from the rest of China. The city maintains a multi-party system, and the Chinese Communist Party doesn't have an official presence in Hong Kong, although many parties are aligned with Beijing. The border to China is still regulated, just like in the past. Theoretically, Hong Kong's autonomy was guaranteed for 50 years when the transfer of sovereignty occurred in 1997. However, with all that being said, Beijing does exert its control over this territory. Hong Kong's chief executive is appointed by China's State Council, which in turn is led by the Chinese Premier. 40% of all seats in the parliament are occupied by representatives appointed by the central government. Furthermore, in 2020, the Chinese National Congress passed the Hong Kong National Security Law. The law's main feats are the introduction of 4 crimes: secession, subversion, terrorism, and collusion with foreign organizations. Basically, any open speech, verbal promotion, or intention of Hong Kong's secession from China is considered a crime. The law entitles authorities to survey, detain, and search persons suspected under its provisions and to require publishers, hosting services, and internet service providers to block, remove, or restrict content which the authorities determine to be in violation of this law. By the way, it applies to non-permanent residents and non-residents of Hong Kong, so anyone that's basically in the city. The law sparked massive protests. Actually, people were already protesting against another bill that wanted to introduce extradition of offenders to the mainland. So, while Hong Kong does retain its autonomy, currently it's basically getting harder to distinguish it from the rest of the People's Republic. Economically, Hong Kong is still doing great, a lot better in fact than most of the world. But on the other hand, with so many people crammed into such a small area, housing is a continuous problem. Hong Kong is one of the least affordable cities in the world if you're planning to buy or rent a home. Just 45 square meters in an apartment can cost as much as 1.2 million euros or more. This gave rise to hundreds of tall skyscrapers, but also many so-called nano flats or micro apartments that are still pricey, by the way. A tiny 12 square meters so-called apartment can set you back 200,000 euros depending on where it's located. Renting is no fun either, as the average rent for a one-bedroom apartment can range from 1,500 to 2,500 euros per month. With such high costs for housing, you need to have a solid, sizable monthly income to be able to afford a decent lifestyle. So, visiting or doing business in Hong Kong is extraordinary, but actually living there can present some challenges. And that was all for today. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like and subscribe before you leave. Leave your comments downstairs, and if you wish to do so, you can help out this channel through my Patreon page. I do hope to see you next time. Bye.